I'll start with the night that changed everything. I was standing on a ridge in the Appalachian Mountains, camera in hand, waiting for the last smear of daylight to slip behind the pines. My boots sank into the moss, damp with the day's rain, and the air smelled of iron and wet leaves. I was hunting shadows. That's what I do. That's what I thought I did. But that night, the shadows were hunting me. You've never been up there at dusk, have you? The world goes quiet in a way that doesn't feel natural. Birds stop calling, crickets freeze. Even the wind seems to hold its breath. That silence has weight, pressing down until your ears start to ring. It makes you notice things you'd rather not. The flicker of movement in the tree line. The outline of something too tall to be a man. I raised my camera, framed the shot, snapped. Click! The shape was gone. At first, I thought it was just my tired eyes or the trick of twilight. Photographers get that all the time. After staring through a lens for hours, you start to see motion in every shadow. But when I checked the playback, the shape was there. A smear of darker black against the trees, standing upright. My stomach turned, because it wasn't the shadow that unsettled me. It was what it didn't do. It didn't match the trees. Look, I know how insane that sounds. Shadows fall where the light tells them to. They stretch, they bend, they wrap themselves over ground and bark. But this thing? It stood straight, stubborn, like it refused the rules the rest of us obey. And worse, it was facing me. I told myself it was nothing. Close the screen, shove the camera back into my bag. That's the first lie I told myself. The trail down was narrow, slick from the rain. Every step felt like a choice. Keep going or slip. Crack my skull and feed the ground. The trees closed in overhead, twisting into darker shapes. I told myself to hum, make some noise, prove I wasn't afraid. But the truth? My throat was dry. The sound died in me before it reached the air. Halfway down, I felt it. Not heard, felt. A presence behind me, too close, as if breath might touch my neck if I slowed. My fingers itched toward the camera again, but I didn't want proof anymore. I just wanted out. Do you know what it feels like to walk when every muscle screams to run? That sick tension, like the ground itself is waiting to see if you'll break. I kept my pace steady, my head stiff, though every instinct clawed for me to look back. Then came the sound. Not footsteps, not branches breaking. Worse, the echo of my own boots, perfectly matched. One step behind me. I froze. My skin went ice cold. The forest waited with me, empty, hollow. I listened. Nothing. Just the drip of water sliding off leaves, the hiss of faraway stream. But when I walked again, slower now, the sound followed. Another step behind mine. Another. Tell me, what would you have done? Would you have turned around? Because I didn't. I couldn't. Something deep in my gut whispered that turning around wasn't an option, that whatever I'd see would break me. So I kept moving, eyes locked on the narrow trail. My breath fogged in the cooling air, shallow, ragged. And then, all at once, it stopped. The echo, the weight behind me, gone. I should have been relieved, but silence after fear is worse than noise because it leaves you waiting. When I finally stepped out into the clearing where my truck was parked, my legs nearly gave out. The old Chevy sat there like a lifeline, red paint dulled by years of mountain weather. I yanked open the door, threw my gear inside, and slid behind the wheel. I sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, waiting for my heartbeat to slow. My head dropped forward. I wanted to believe it was all in my mind, just the tricks of a long day. But then I noticed the dirt on my floor mat, not from my boots, a second set of prints. Wet, dark, leading nowhere. And when I finally forced myself to lift my head, I saw it in the rearview mirror, not behind me, not in the bed of the truck, inside, sitting in the back seat. I didn't move, couldn't. The rearview mirror showed the back seat in washed-out grays, my own pale face floating above it. And there, slouched against the middle cushion, was a darker patch, too solid to be shadow, too still to be human. I wanted to turn, to glance over my shoulder, confirm what the mirror showed. But my body wouldn't obey. My fingers dug into the wheel until they ached, sweat slicking the leather. My breath stuttered, fogging the glass. The figure didn't shift, didn't breathe. It just sat there, its head tilted in a way that suggested it was waiting. I told myself, don't look, don't look. Mirrors lie. It's not real if you don't give it your eyes. I twisted the key anyway. The engine coughed, roared awake. Headlights spilled over the dirt lot, throwing the trees into sharper silhouettes. The mirror trembled with vibration. The thing in the back seat did not. I slammed the gear shift into reverse, tire spitting mud, and barreled down the narrow road without checking another glance. The mountain curves swallowed me, headlights darting across stone and bark. I didn't breathe until I reached the paved county highway. Miles later, where the trees broke and the night sky opened. Only then did I risk another look. The back seat was empty. No stain of darkness. No waiting figure. Just a crumpled map and an old thermos rolling with every turn. Relief washed through me, but it was poisoned with doubt. I'd seen it. I knew I had. Yet here was the evidence of absence, mocking me. My mind clung to excuses, fatigue, paranoia, a trick of the eyes. I wanted to believe them. I really did. But as I drove, I felt it, the faintest weight behind me, like air pressed into space that should have been empty. I made it home by midnight, a small cabin wedged at the mountain's edge. My safe place. At least it used to be. I kept the lights on as I unpacked. The camera stayed zipped in its bag on the table. I couldn't bring myself to look at the photos yet. Not then. Instead, I showered, scalding water hammering my skin, trying to wash the memory off me. It didn't work. When I stepped out, the mirror was fogged. My own silhouette glared back, warped by steam. I wiped a hand across the glass, and for a heartbeat, I swore another outline lingered over my shoulder. Taller, wrong. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the kitchen, all lights blazing, listening. Every creak of the cabin, every scrape of tree branches against the siding set my nerves on fire. I kept checking the window, convinced I'd see that figure standing in the yard, waiting. When dawn finally came, I felt more dead than alive. And yet, I still did the stupidest thing possible. I opened the camera. The memory card slid into my laptop with a soft click. Folder after folder of the previous week's work filled the screen. Deer crossing streams. The ridges swallowing fog. Rusted cabins tilting into the ground. The Appalachians in all their solemn, endless beauty. Then came the shots from last night. The ridge, the tree line, the shadow. My throat dried as I zoomed in. The shape was there, just like I'd seen through the playback. Darker than black, upright. Its outline wavered, as if the trees resisted touching it. The more I stared, the more I realized something sickening. It wasn't blurry from motion. The lines of its body were sharp, too sharp, like a cutout pasted over the world. And the head, God help me, it was tilted, the same angle I'd seen in my truck mirror. I should have deleted it right then, burned the card, destroyed the proof. But photographers, we're hoarders of moments, even the ones that ruin us, especially those. That's when I noticed something worse. In the bottom corner of the frame, half hidden in the underbrush, was a sliver of color. Not shadow, not tree. Something pale, skin pale. A hand, fingers curled into the moss. I yanked the laptop shut so hard, the hinge popped. My chest heaved, air tearing in and out. The kitchen felt too small, every wall leaning in. My ears strained for footsteps upstairs, outside, anywhere, but the house was silent. I stayed like that for an hour, frozen, waiting for something to happen. Nothing did. By noon, exhaustion dragged me into a shallow sleep on the couch. Dreams wrapped me in static, broken faces shifting in and out, mouths open but soundless. When I jolted awake, the clock said 3. My skin prickled. I wasn't alone. I didn't hear anything, didn't see anything. But I felt it again, that pressure of space occupied, the way your skin knows when eyes are on you. Slowly, against every instinct, I turned my head toward the far corner of the room. Empty. Yet the shadow in that corner, it didn't belong. The lamp stood to the left, angled low. My body threw a thin, stretched shadow across the floor. But that corner? The darkness was too deep, too square. I blinked, and for half a second, it leaned forward. My stomach dropped. I scrambled to my feet, knocking the coffee table over. The crash broke the stillness. My own panic was the loudest sound I'd heard all day. When I looked back, the corner was empty. Still, I packed a bag. Just clothes, some food, my camera. I wasn't staying in that house another night. I told myself I'd drive into town, get a motel, clear my head. Maybe even laugh at myself later. But as I zipped the bag shut, a thought chilled me deeper than the rest. If shadows no longer matched reality, then what about my own? I looked down. The afternoon sun slanted through the window, spilling across my boots. My shadow sprawled long across the wooden floor, and it was smiling. I swear to you, I almost blacked out. My knees buckled, but I caught myself on the edge of the couch. The wood beneath my boots creaked, as if to confirm what I saw. My shadow wasn't mine. Its mouth was stretched into a grin my face wasn't making. I staggered back. The smile widened. The light source hadn't shifted. The window still bled the same pale sun. Yet the dark version of me, pinned to the floor, was alive enough to mock me. I shut my eyes tight enough to hurt. Whispered through clenched teeth, "It's the fatigue. It's the fear. You're seeing what you expect to see." But when I opened them again, the grin was gone. The shadow was ordinary, just a stretched outline of a tired man. Still, I couldn't look at it without my chest tightening. I grabbed the duffel, bolted from the cabin, and didn't lock the door behind me. The air outside hit colder than I expected, sharp with pine and damp earth. My truck sat in the dirt drive, metal warming under the sun. I threw the bag in, climbed behind the wheel, and turned the key. The Chevy rumbled awake, a sound I usually loved. That day, it felt fragile, like a dying heartbeat. As I pulled onto the county road, the trees crowded close again, branches webbed overhead. Every passing shadow slashed across my windshield. I found myself flinching each time, expecting one to linger too long. The drive into town should have taken 40 minutes. I don't remember most of it. My hands stayed locked at 10 and 2, sweat dripping down my spine. My eyes darted between the road and the mirrors, desperate to catch something before it caught me. But there was nothing. And that nothing was worse. When I reached the first gas station on the outskirts of town, I pulled in almost too fast. Gravel spat under my tires. I needed light, noise, people, anything that wasn't silence and trees. The place was nearly empty. A clerk behind the counter scrolling through his phone. A single customer filling her tank. Fluorescents buzzed overhead, washing the station in that sick white glow. I sat there for a while, engine idling, watching the woman finish up, get in her car, and drive off. My gut twisted when I saw her taillights vanish. I didn't want to be alone with this thing, whatever it was. Eventually, I forced myself inside. The clerk barely looked at me. I grabbed water, chips, anything to keep my hands busy. But when I set them on the counter, he finally lifted his head and froze. "You okay, man?" he asked. "Fine," I lied. My voice came out raw, like I hadn't spoken in days. He frowned, eyes flicking over me, then lower, to the floor between us. I followed his gaze. The fluorescent light cast me onto the tiles. My shadow sprawled at my feet, stretched slightly toward the fridges behind him, and it was smiling again. The clerk's lips parted, but no sound came. His face drained. I didn't wait for him to speak. I shoved the bills on the counter and bolted. The door slapped shut behind me, and for a moment, I thought I heard him whisper, "It followed you." Back in the truck, my chest heaved. My palms were slick against the wheel. I didn't want to check, but I had to. My eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. Nothing there, just the crumpled map and thermos. But when I looked back to the station, the clerk was still staring after me through the glass. And his shadow on the wall behind him, long, warped, wasn't moving with him. It was raising a hand. I drove off so fast, I nearly tore the bumper. The motel I chose was cheap, sagging, with mildew bleeding through its paint. The kind of place where no one asked questions. Perfect for a man coming apart. I checked in, dropped my bag, and shut the blinds. The room smelled of bleach and cigarettes. The mattress dipped in the middle, squealing when I sat. But at least it wasn't my cabin. At least it wasn't those woods. Still, I couldn't stop myself from checking every corner, every wall, the space beneath the bed. My nerves sparked like live wires. My own shadow trailed faithfully at my feet, bland and still, but I didn't trust it. Not anymore. Hours passed. I left the TV on, static noise filling the silence. Tried to eat, but the chips crumbled dry in my mouth. Tried to drink, but the water tasted metallic. I must have dozed off sitting upright, because the next thing I knew, the screen flickered blue. A movie menu looping. The clock said 2:11 a.m. The motel walls pressed close. And something was moving. Not in the room. Inside the television screen. Behind the looping movie menu. Faint, but there. A darker figure. Tilted head, watching me through the glass. I scrambled for the remote, slammed the power button. The screen snapped black. For a moment, I stared at my own reflection in the blank glass. My hair wild, my eyes sunken, and behind me, for the briefest second, another reflection leaned closer. I tore the plug from the wall. The TV died with a pop. Silence. I sat in it for hours, every nerve buzzing, until dawn bled gray through the blinds. That thin light never felt more precious. But the reprieve didn't last, because when I finally dragged myself to the bathroom, splashed water on my face, and lifted my head to the mirror, my reflection didn't move with me. I jerked back so hard, I hit the towel rack. The mirror swayed with my motion, but the man inside it didn't. He stood perfectly still, hands braced against the sink, water dripping from his face. My water, my hands, my face, but frozen. I raised my arm, slowly. The reflection didn't. Instead, it blinked, a full second before I did. My stomach lurched. The room tilted. For a breathless instant, I thought gravity might tear me backward into that glass. I stumbled, knocking over the plastic cup, water spilling across the counter. The reflection lowered its head, as if amused. I didn't wait to see more. I backed out, slammed the bathroom door, and pressed my spine to the wall. My chest pounded so loud it filled the room, drowning out the traffic hum outside. This wasn't fatigue, wasn't tricks of light. Something had crossed from shadow into mirror, and it wanted me to know it. I shoved my things into the bag, nearly leaving the camera behind before guilt made me grab it. My whole life's work was in that thing, though every second I carried it felt like I was dragging poison. The sun was up now, pale and flat. I checked out of the motel without a word, the clerk barely glancing up. I think I expected him to notice, to see it bleeding off me. But to him, I was just another tired traveler. I drove without a destination. The highway blurred, endless trees and ridges rolling past. Every car that passed in the opposite lane felt like salvation, proof I wasn't the last man alive. Still, I couldn't stop checking the mirrors. Not for traffic, for it. Around noon, I pulled into a diner. Neon open sign buzzing in the window. Grease smell thick enough to coat my tongue before I even stepped inside. The waitress smiled, like she'd been doing it too long. I slid into a booth, ordered coffee just for something hot to hold. My hands trembled as I wrapped them around the mug. For a few minutes, the normalcy almost worked. Plates clattered, forks scraped. Old country music crackled from a jukebox in the corner. Life went on. But then I looked down. The Formica tabletop reflected just enough to show the underside of my face, warped and dull. Only it wasn't warped. It was smiling. My lips were still, but in the table's sheen, the other me stretched wide, teeth too many, too sharp. I shoved the mug aside so hard it spilled. The waitress rushed over with towels, fussing, asking if I was all right. I nodded, muttered apologies. She dabbed at the mess, but her eyes lingered on me, puzzled. And then, subtle, so subtle, her own shadow stretched across the floor. And it wasn't wiping the spill. It was pointing at me. I left cash on the table and stumbled out. the bell above the door jangling like laughter. Back in the truck, the panic settled into something worse, a sick certainty. It wasn't just mine anymore. Whatever this was, it spread. Through shadows, through glass, through anyone unlucky enough to glance too long. The thought gnawed at me the whole drive. I couldn't go back to the cabin, couldn't risk another motel. I needed distance, space. Somewhere I could breathe without reflections or fluorescent light. By dusk, I'd found myself on a back road deep in the mountains, the kind of place maps forgot. The trees grew thick overhead, swallowing the sky. My headlights carved thin tunnels through the dark. Eventually, I pulled off at a gravel clearing near an old fire tower. The structure loomed against the fading sky, skeletal and rusting. Perfect. High, alone. I killed the engine. Silence swallowed me. The air smelled of pine sap and rain-soaked stone. I climbed the tower, each step groaning under my weight, until I reached the platform. From up there, the mountains rolled endless in every direction. Ridges like sleeping beasts, valleys drowned in mist. Beautiful. Terrifying. I stayed until night fell, stars prickling through the black. For the first time in days, I felt almost safe. Shadows below couldn't reach me here. Or so I thought. Around midnight, I woke from a shallow doze, cheek pressed to the wood. My skin crawled before my eyes even opened. Something was climbing the tower. The metal stairs groaned one by one, deliberate. My breath seized in my throat. I crawled to the railing, peered down between the slats. At first, I saw nothing but dark. Then, movement. A smear of black, sharper than night, sliding upward without form. Not a person. Not even an animal. Just a refusal of light, climbing like it belonged. I scrambled back, heart slamming. My hand closed on the camera. Instinct. Proof. I raised it, aimed through the viewfinder at the stairs. The lens caught it, clearer than my eyes ever could. The shadow climbing upward, its head tilting, sharp grin widening. And behind it, lower down the stairs, another shape followed. And another. Shadows stacked upon shadows, climbing in silence. I lowered the camera, chest heaving. To my naked eyes, the stairs were empty. But the lens had told the truth. Or maybe the lie. Either way, they were coming. I backed until the railing pressed into my spine. The wood beneath me groaned, brittle with age. My fingers dug into the camera like it was a weapon. But what could a piece of glass and metal do against that? The night air was cold, sharp with pine and iron. My breath misted, shuddering out in ragged bursts. I forced myself to glance back through the viewfinder. They were closer. The first one had reached halfway up the tower. The tilt of its head felt obscene, like it was trying to mimic curiosity, but only managed cruelty. And behind it, the others climbed with perfect rhythm. Step, pause, step. Each one stopping in unison, as if waiting for me to blink. I lowered the camera again. Empty stairs. My legs shook so hard I nearly dropped to my knees. Which was worse, seeing them or not seeing them? The tower shifted in the wind, a long creak running through its bones. I gripped the railing to steady myself. My mind spun. I couldn't climb down, not past them, not with the chance that they were really there. So I did the only thing left. I called out, "Leave me alone! My voice cracked, tore itself from my throat. "What do you want?" The trees answered with silence. No echo, no bird, no insect. Even the wind died, like the whole mountain leaned in to listen. And then, laughter. Soft, not from the stairs, from behind me. I spun. For a heartbeat, nothing. Just empty platform, empty sky. Then, my own shadow peeled itself from the wood, lifting free like smoke. It stood. My shape, my height, my outline, but the grin stretched wider than my jaw could ever allow. I stumbled back, nearly over the railing. My chest burned with each heave. The shadow me raised a hand. Not mirrored, independent, its fingers curled, beckoning me forward. I bolted, not down the stairs. I couldn't risk it. Instead, I scrambled to the tower's ladder, the one maintenance crews used. The rungs were rusted, slick with dew, but I climbed like a man possessed, descending too fast, every slip a promise of broken bones. The ground hit harder than I expected. My knees buckled, sending me sprawling into the gravel. Pain shot up my arms, but I didn't stop. I staggered upright, sprinted into the trees. Branches whipped my face, roots clawed my boots. The night swallowed me whole, but I didn't care. I just ran, desperate to put miles between me and that tower. Behind me, the creaking began again. Not wood this time, not metal. The sound of footsteps, dozens, perfectly matched to mine. I didn't dare look back. Every instinct screamed to keep going. My lungs burned, throat raw. The forest blurred into endless black, punctuated by the occasional slash of moonlight. When I finally collapsed, it was beside a stream. The water shimmered silver, cold air rolling off its surface. I dropped to my knees, scooped handfuls to my mouth, swallowing greedily. The ripples stilled. I lifted my head and saw myself staring back. Not my reflection, not exactly. The water's surface showed me crouched, eyes wide, lips moving, though mine were still. It mouthed something, over and over, bubbles breaking with each phantom word. I leaned closer, desperate, horrified, and then it stopped mouthing and smiled. I stumbled back so fast I fell, rocks grinding into my palms. The water lay calm, mirror flat, innocent. But I knew. Every surface was theirs, every shadow, every glint. I had nowhere left to stand that was mine. For hours, I wandered. Through undergrowth, over ridges, deeper into the mountains than I'd ever gone. My body moved on autopilot, but my mind screamed. I couldn't stop replaying each glimpse, the mirror, the diner, the tower, my own grin in places it didn't belong. By dawn, I found myself at the mouth of a cave. The rock gaped wide, breathing cool air. I should have turned back. Any sane man would. But caves meant darkness, and some part of me thought, if they're everywhere light falls, maybe the dark is safer. I lit my flashlight and stepped inside. The beam cut across damp stone, jagged walls dripping with condensation. My footsteps echoed too loudly. The air was thick, heavy, reeking of minerals and something sourer, like meat gone bad. I went deeper. The walls closed in, narrowing to a throat I had to squeeze through sideways. My bag scraped rock. My breath came shallow, claustrophobic. Then it opened into a chamber. My light swept across the floor and froze. Shadows pooled there, dozens of them, layered and wrong. Not cast by me, not cast by anything. They writhed like oil, pulling at each other, fusing, separating, whispering in voices too thin to hear. The beam landed on one figure at the back of the chamber. Upright, tilted head, the same too sharp outline. It stepped forward. The rest followed, and my flashlight flickered. The beam sputtered, weak as a dying candle. Each flicker carved the cave into jagged glimpses, the walls sweating, the ground slick, the shapes closing in. I smacked the flashlight, once, twice. The bulb steadied, but dimmer, as though the shadows were drinking from it. They were closer now, dozens, maybe more. The pool of writhing black on the floor rippled like disturbed water, spreading until it licked the tips of my boots. I staggered back, my shoulders slamming stone. The cave pulsed with whispers, too low to catch, too many to separate. 1,000 mouths murmuring just beneath hearing. The figure in front, upright, tilted, stepped into the edge of the beam. For the first time, I saw detail. Not skin, not fabric, just surface, flat and depthless, like a hole punched in the world, shaped like a man. The grin spread wider, impossibly so. My flashlight faltered again. I felt the dark pressing in, crawling up my arms like cold fingers. Desperation made me lift the camera. I don't know why. Maybe instinct. Maybe I thought if I captured it, I could contain it. Click. The flash burst, searing the chamber white. For a heartbeat, I saw everything too clearly. The shadows froze. The upright figure leaned close enough that the flash burned its outline into my vision. And the walls, God, the walls were crawling with impressions of faces. Hollow eyes, open mouths, carved deep like fossils, screaming to get out. Then the light died, and the whispers rose. I ran. I don't remember making the choice. My body just tore itself free, shoving through the tunnel, scraping my shoulders raw on stone. The flashlight clattered behind me, useless. I scrambled blind, palms bleeding, skull cracking against the low ceiling. When I burst out into the morning, the light nearly blinded me. I fell into the dirt, choking on air, sobbing like a child. The cave yawned behind me, innocent, just a hole in the ridge. But I could still hear them, the whispers, faint, promising. I stumbled down the slope, half crawling, until the trees swallowed me again. My body ached with every step, but I didn't dare stop. By noon, I found an old ranger station. Abandoned, windows busted, roof sagging. I broke in through the back door, collapsing on the dusty floor. Sunlight cut through the gaps, striping the room with bars of gold. For a while, I lay there, trying to steady my breathing, trying to believe the light kept me safe. But the shadows from the window bars stretched across the floor, longer than they should have, twisting angles they had no right to twist. I dragged myself to the farthest corner where the sun fell strongest. My back to the wall, bag clutched tight, I waited. I must have blacked out. When I came to, dusk had stained the sky purple. The station's corners were thick with dark. My heart plummeted. I checked the camera. The photo from the cave was still there. The flash had caught them mid-step, dozens frozen like insects in amber. But the worst was me. I was in the frame, standing among them, my grin stretching wider than theirs. I threw the camera across the room. It shattered against the wall, pieces scattering into shadow. Relief lasted half a second, until I noticed movement in the shards. Each fragment of glass reflected me, and in every single one, my reflection was smiling. I screamed, scooped the bag, bolted from the station before the echoes of my voice even died. Night had fallen. The woods were black rivers between trunks. My flashlight was gone, left in the cave, but the moon dragged itself above the ridge, pale and thin. Its light stretched my shadow across the trail ahead of me. I didn't want to look. I couldn't not. And there it was, head tilted, grinning, arms raised, like it was welcoming me home. I stopped. My breath came fast, shallow, useless. My own shadow wasn't mine anymore. It spoke, not out loud, not with sound. But I felt the words crawl into me, sliding down my spine like oil. We've always been here. You finally see us. I staggered backward. My boots caught a root. I went down hard, skull ringing against stone. Stars exploded in my vision. When I blinked them away, the forest was alive with movement. Every tree cast a shadow that twitched. Every bush stretched wrong. Shapes peeled themselves from the ground, rising, tilting, their heads in unison. They weren't just following me anymore. They were surrounding me. And then one stepped closer, and it wore my face. It was me, or at least it wore me like a mask. Same height, same hair, same curve of shoulders, but wrong, like a sketch copied too many times, the lines slipping further from truth with each attempt. The eyes were pits. The grin was stretched, and its shadow wasn't under it at all. Its shadow was behind me. I scrambled to my feet, stumbling backward. The other me tilted its head, mirroring the thing from the truck, from the tower, from the cave. The chorus of whispers around us deepened, pulling at my bones. "What do you want?" I begged. My voice cracked, swallowed by the trees. The other me stepped closer. My chest hitched. Every cell screamed to run, but I knew it wouldn't matter. You can't outrun yourself. Its lips parted, and I swear, though no sound came, I heard my own voice echo inside my skull. Give in. I spun, bolting down the slope, branches tearing at my arms. My boots slipped on moss, rocks cutting into my palms as I caught myself. The forest wasn't forest anymore. It was corridors, endless halls of bark and shadow, funneling me where it wanted. Behind me, the whispers swelled, chasing like a tide. I burst into a clearing, moonlight drowning the grass, really flared for an instant. Open space, but then I froze. Shadows already filled it. Dozens, hundreds, twisting like smoke, peeling themselves from the tree line, circling me. Their bodies didn't match the trees, didn't match anything. They bent and stretched at angles that defied the moon. And in the center of them all stood me. Dozens of me, each one grinning wider, heads tilting further, like grotesque mirrors cracking outward. Some taller, some hunched, some with two long limbs. All wrong. I dropped to my knees. My body gave out. My heart hammered like it wanted out of my chest. Please, I whispered. I didn't ask for this. I didn't. The circle tightened. One of them crouched in front of me, inches away. Its grin split wider, lips tearing at the corners. I could smell it then. Not rot, not dirt, but iron. Blood. Its hand reached out. Black fingers brushed my cheek, cold as stone. My skin recoiled, but my body wouldn't move. And then, laughter. Not theirs, mine. It bubbled out of my throat without permission, cracked and broken. My lips curled, stretching against my will. Tears stung my eyes as the sound grew, jagged and wrong. The shadows echoed it back, a chorus of hollow voices. Each laugh slightly off, layered into madness. I thought I'd break, thought I'd shatter into pieces right there. But something inside me sparked. Rage, terror, defiance, I don't know. I wrenched my face away, forced the sound to die in my throat. "No!" I screamed. It came out raw, blood in my spit. "You can't have me." The clearing went still. For the first time, the shadows hesitated. The grins faltered. The other me, closest to me, blinked, slow, deliberate. And then, like a ripple, they stepped back, all of them. Confusion sliced through my fear. Why retreat now? Why give me space? I followed their gazes. To the ground, my shadow. It was spreading, stretching out from under me, darker, thicker, swallowing the grass. It tilted its head. It smiled, and the others bowed. My stomach hollowed. I staggered back, shaking my head. No, that's not me. That's not. The shadow rose, not peeled, not detached. Rose, like smoke solidifying into flesh. It stood before me, my exact shape, but not copied, not wrong, perfect, the way I might look if I belonged to them. It leaned close, lips at my ear. This time the words were sound. A whisper carried on cold breath. "You already do." I snapped. I ran again, screaming, crashing through the far side of the clearing. Branches lashed, rocks bruised. I didn't care. I just needed to put distance between me and that thing that wore me too well. The forest blurred. My body gave out more with each step. But still, I ran. Until I saw lights. Faint, yellow human lights through the trees. My chest nearly collapsed with relief. A road. Houses. Civilization. I burst from the tree line, stumbled onto asphalt. My knees scraped raw. Ahead, a farmhouse glowed with lamplight. Curtains drawn. Smoke from the chimney. Human. Real. I staggered toward it, tears breaking free. I slammed my fist against the door. "Help me. Please, God, help me." The porch light flicked on. Footsteps inside. A lock turned. The door cracked open. And there I was, standing in the doorway, smiling. I froze. My knuckles still pressed to the wood. Breath still heaving. But the man in the doorway, me, impossibly me, just smiled. His eyes glowed faint under the porch light, like lantern glass catching a flame. My voice died in my throat. I staggered back down the steps, shaking my head. No. He leaned against the frame. Casual, easy, like he'd been waiting for me all night. "You made it," he said. My voice, my tone, every syllable perfect. Something cracked inside me. I turned to run, but the yard had already filled. The shadows bled from the trees, rising like smoke, forming that impossible congregation. Dozens of them, hundreds, and every single one had my face. The porch light flickered. My double stepped onto the lawn. The others parted for him, bowing their heads. He walked toward me, slow, deliberate, each step sinking deeper into the wet grass. I backed away until my spine hit the fence. My palms found splinters. I would have climbed it, but my body refused. I couldn't look away from him. He stopped inches from me. I could see myself reflected in his eyes, except the reflection was smiling while I wasn't. "You've been fighting so hard," he whispered. My whisper, my own breath brushing my face. "But you were ours the moment you saw us, the moment you stepped into our dark." His hand rose, fingers hovering just above my chest. I felt the pull, like a magnet dragging my heart forward. My ribs ached with the strain. "I don't want this," I croaked, my throat raw, my lips trembling. "I didn't ask for this." His grin widened. "No one does." The air split. I don't know how else to say it. A tearing sound, like canvas ripped apart, opened between us. I saw black light, if that makes sense, pour from the wound in the world. And in it, shadows writhed, not shaped like men, but like things older, hungrier. They reached, writhing, beckoning. My double pressed his palm against my chest. Cold poured through me. My legs buckled, my vision blurred. I saw my own shadow stretch taller, broader, splitting at the edges. Hands clawed their way free from its sides. I thought that was it. Thought I was being unmade. But somewhere in that collapse, something stubborn flared. Rage, defiance, maybe just the last human spark I had left. I grabbed my camera bag from the dirt. Fingers shaking, bloodied, I tore the spare flash from it. My double tilted his head, curious, almost amused. I shoved the flash into his chest and fired. The burst detonated, white. The field howled. My ears split with the sound. For an instant, all the shadows convulsed, shrieking, retreating into smoke. My double screamed, not my voice anymore, but something vast and broken. His skin peeled into light. His grin cracked wide enough to split his face. And then, gone. The field emptied, the farmhouse darkened. Silence dropped heavy. I collapsed into the grass, chest heaving. The flash smoked in my hand. My skin blistered where I'd held it. But I was alive. Alone. Or so I thought. The silence stretched too long, too deep. My breathing sounded wrong, echoing in ways it shouldn't. The night air pressed heavy, like I was still underground. I turned my head. The grass beside me was flattened, as if someone lay there too. And when the moonlight hit, a shadow stretched from that space. It was mine, but it didn't move with me. I rolled onto my knees, panic clawing at my chest. My shadow stayed still, head tilted, grin carved wider than ever. Then it raised a hand. I didn't. I stumbled backward, tripping over the fence, cutting my palms raw on the splinters. My shadow climbed over with me, fluid, graceful, independent. And that's when I realized the flash hadn't saved me. It hadn't burned them away. It had torn the tether loose. They weren't trapped in the dark anymore. They were free. I ran, through fields, along the road, past barns and power lines. I didn't stop until dawn painted the horizon. Even now, days later, weeks, I don't know anymore. I can't tell what's real. When I walk past glass, I see myself still grinning back. When I step into sunlight, my shadow lags behind, then runs ahead. Sometimes I wake at night to hear myself breathing on the other side of the room. I shouldn't be telling you this. I shouldn't be confessing at all, because the more I speak it, the stronger they seem to get. But you need to know. If you hike those mountains, if you carry a camera, if you linger too long in the caves, don't look at the shadows. Don't let your eyes adjust. Don't take a picture, because once you do, you'll never be sure which one of you walked back out. And if you're listening to me now, really listening, Check your shadow. Is it smiling?